I just ran on stage and was like doing hype for like half the lines with a hoodie on, just being like, yo, where's everybody at? Who's ready for a king without a crown? It's modest Yahoo time. And it was just like, oh God. Okay, so you're telling me you can take the beat of one song, you can take the acapella of another song, you can put them on top of each other and make like a whole new song, and we literally spent like months just making hundreds and hundreds of horrible mashups, really, really bad. So we were like, oh my God, wait, he likes the two songs. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Oh my God, we're gonna make more songs. And so we had a bunch in the bank, but then we had to pare down whatever was there to a 5-track EP. Ian is like the style king. Like, you know, he is someone that I've always looked to for what's cool, what's hip. He is so in tune with, you know, the world around him.
Hi, today I'm here with Dan of Gladiator.
What's up? Gladiator. Like that movie with Russell Crowe.
Yeah, that's actually how you came up with the name, right, with your friend?
It is, yeah. We were a little stony baloney sitting around the couch after a summer of, or after, I think it was like right when we got done with senior year. And we were just sitting around eating snacks, being stony baloney, and we were watching the movie Gladiator, and our friend David was like, yo, I got a crazy idea, man. We're doing this music stuff. Let's just be 3 people from the movie Gladiator. We'll call ourselves Gladiator. And we were like, David, that's a great idea, dude. I love it. And then, you know, 10 years later, here we are.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fun.
So you were born in LA, right?
Technically, I was born on the East Coast. I was born in Stamford, Connecticut, but I moved to LA when I was 1. So I don't really have a memory of that time on the East Coast. But I have roots there. My extended family's on the East Coast. But I've been in LA as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So I've been, you know, I've been in the Hollywood area since I was literally 1 year old. So, you know, no, I'm not an original seed from the ground of Los Angeles, but I've been here for a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What made your parents move out here?
Actually, it was my dad. My dad used to write television. He was a writer on a show called Dinosaurs back in the day. It was a show with like animatronic dinosaurs and the family and the baby with like the pans, like not the mama, and like smacks the dad. So that's what brought us out to Los Angeles, and it also inspired my huge fear of dinosaurs when I was a child.
Oh my God. Was he doing some of that stuff since like Connecticut?
Kind of. I mean, he always wanted to be a writer. He loved writing and was writing, you know, just silly bits. He actually, his first job as a writer.
Yeah.
There was like a Chuck E. Cheese in Connecticut, and him and his writing partner, they were like, we want to write these bits for these like animals and stuff like that. They're gonna make jokes in the store. And he's like, all right, so when we go in, we're gonna tell them we want $5,000 for all 5 bits, and we're not gonna ask for a penny less. And the guy's like, and his partner's like, okay, cool. So they go into the guy. The boss is reading the scripts, and they're sitting there, and he's like, all right, I like these scripts. How much do you want? My dad says $5,000.
Yeah.
And the boss guy goes, each? Like for each script? And my dad says,
sure.
Yes. The guy goes, all right, let's drive a tough bargain, but I'm down. And so my dad came out making 5 times more than he did, and he thought maybe this writing thing might work out.
Oh my God, that's so cool. How about your mom?
My mom has always been a freelance writer. She was working for like People magazine for a little while, and you know, doing interviews and talking to different kinds of people, hence the magazine.
Yeah.
But not in Connecticut. She was working for a couple of newspapers and stuff, but when she came to LA, that's when she really started getting into reporting and journalism and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
She was actually at the O.J. Simpson trial, like way back in the day.
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
Did she tell you much about it?
She was just kind of there. She was she was like in the courtroom. She wasn't like interviewing OJ or anything like that. She was just like, reporting on the situation for people. So to her, she was like, it was boring as hell. I was in fucking jury duty all day, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but in retrospect, pretty crazy time.
Yeah. How do you describe yourself back then growing up?
I don't know, kind of a shit little kid. No, I was all right. I mean, like, I love sports. I loved Power Rangers. I loved, you know, loved cartoons and all that. And that was pretty much it. I was just kind of like a kooky kid. I loved, you know, I loved doing sports and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I felt like I had a very average childhood. I played a lot of soccer.
Okay.
Played a little baseball. I played baseball through T-ball, and then the first time that I got to coach pitch, when the coach was supposed to be throwing balls at you, like, my first coach got really intense and was like, all right, so parents, we need your kids practicing an hour a day every single day. And my dad was like, you know what? He's still kind of a kid. I don't know if he's really ready for that yet. And I was like, you know, maybe this is the end of baseball for me.
Were you kind of competitive, though?
Kind of, yeah. I think what I really liked about it was working together. Like, teamwork was a big aspect of it that I really like. I don't know if it was about me necessarily being the best that I could be, but working as a team to make something happen. That's what I always really liked.
Were you into school, though?
Was I into school? Like, was I into academics and shit like that? No. Kind of not really. I mean, you know, I did fine. I was a mediocre to bad student. I got it done, but I really liked music. I really liked sports. I really liked, group activities and stuff like that, being with my friends. I mean, like I said, I was like a shit little kid. I'd rather hang out with my friends than I would, do schoolwork and shit like that.
Yeah. But where do you think you got your music from? And your parents don't really do music.
No, you're right. They definitely don't. And neither does anyone else in my family.
Damn.
But what I will say is that my dad has always had a really particular taste in music.
Yeah.
He's always kind of weird stuff. Like, he introduced me to funk music. He got me into Parliament Funkadelic and Herbie Hancock and stuff like that. And then we were both watching TV, and there was a Gap commercial way back in the day where people were on skateboards and there was spray paint on the bottom of their skateboards.
Yeah.
And it was to the song Busy Child by Crystal Method off of their album Vegas. It's one of their early albums. And that album, me and my dad just rinsed that album in the car all the time. So he got me into Crystal Method and that kind of, he got me into that style of music way, way, way earlier than I thought. So me liking Crystal Method eventually led to me liking stuff like Daft Punk when I was in high school, which led to me discovering stuff like Justice in 2007, which led down this whole path of hard dance music and EDM and stuff. Yeah.
Did you play an instrument?
I tried out a lot of different instruments. The drums were the ones that really stuck out to me. I was a drummer throughout all of my childhood. Played guitar a little bit.
Then?
Kind of, actually. With Ian. Myself, Ian, our other friend David, who was one of the original members of Gladiator.
Oh, really?
When we
How old were you?
All high school, all 9th grade through 12th grade.
Okay.
We were just there was a performance at the high school we went to. It was called Arts Fair, and the final performance of Arts Fair was just every kid who had a musical act would go up and perform a song, and every year we just did a live rendition of a different hip hop song.
That sounds cool though.
It was cool. It was also super lame. One time we did King Without a Crown by Modest Yahoo, and me and my friend David had to have a sing-off to see which one was going to sing the song, and I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to be the hype man. And I just ran on stage and was doing hype for half the lines with a hoodie on, just being yo, where's everybody at? Who's ready for King Without a Crown? It's Modest Yahoo time. And it was just
oh my God. Do you still have videos from it?
No. I mean, no, definitely not. Those videos don't exist anywhere.
Oh my God. What is the band name or your trio name?
I guess you could call us 3DI. 3DI would have been what we were, because we also had a best friend named Dustin, who is an incredibly talented musician. He's now a studio musician for Paramount. He's an incredibly talented musician. He was the one with all the music talent. He just turned it into being a studio musician rather than trying to do this EDM world kind of stuff. But he was an amazing musician. He would help us arrange all these parts and stuff like that. So 3DI, David, Daniel, Dustin, and Ian would put on these shows at the end of the year.
But did you ever put stuff out?
No.
Yeah, it's just kind of.
Yeah, it was just those performances at the end of the year.
Yeah.
What I will say though is that once stuff like GarageBand and Soundtrack and the first versions of Ableton Live came out, while we were in high school, we put out 2 mixtapes of mashups that were just original mashups from way back in the day. They were just A-B mashups, one song on top of another. But it was back when Girl Talk was just first popping, and we were yo. Okay, so you're telling me you can take the beat of one song, you can take the acapella of another song, you can put them on top of each other and make a whole new song, and we literally spent months just making hundreds and hundreds of horrible mashups. Really, really bad. Some of them were great. Some of them were okay. The first one I ever made was Soulja Boy. It was Cranked At Soulja Boy over Sandstorm. That was the first one.
I'm trying to imagine it.
It was.
It's probably online
it's
somewhere if I
No,
YouTube it.
Don't do it. What I will say though is that at the exact same time, Super Mash Bros. You ever remember them?
Yeah.
Super Mash. Good one, man. Appreciate that. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. It's the worst. Super Mash Bros. At the exact same time made the exact same mashup. So they had an intro that was Girl Talk style, and it started with Cranked At into Sandstorm, and I was damn, I lost my mashup. I thought it was so good. I thought it was so original, and then it was just gone, taken. I was you know what? They beat me to it. They put it out in a nice. They put it in a nice package, and that's when I realized I was you know what? If I want to do this shit, I have to I got to do it. I can't just make it and show it to my friends and be look, I did it. Isn't that cool, guys? It's no, you got to put shit out. You got to make it happen.
Actually, it was a decision to always just be in a duo or trio. You never considered being a solo artist?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I ever really considered it, like, doing this as a career. Like, when we were just making music at the outset, just, like, working together, it was so much more just about, like, us helping each other learn and developing whatever talents we had and, like, you know, just falling more in love with Ableton.
Yeah.
And then eventually, our friend David was like, you know what, I really like this, but I think I want to pursue acting as a career. And we were like, okay, great. We'll just keep doing the music thing and, you know, do whatever.
Yeah.
And then we started making, you know, remixes, and we started making, like, you know, mixes that, like, people were listening to and receiving attention. And that's when it's, you know, the slow grow of becoming Gladiator started.
Yeah.
So, to be honest with you, at the beginning, it really wasn't about, like, you know what, let's do this, let's be DJs, let's start putting it out. It was just like, we just got more and more comfortable sharing the music that we were making.
Yeah.
Which I think at the onset was a mistake. Like, we shouldn't have just been posting whatever we made and whatever we thought was good at the start. We should have been, like, a little bit more careful. Like, you know, if I had the know-how I do now with the music I was making back then, I think we would be in a completely different place. Because I would have taken all that music, I would have been like, you know what, don't put that out. Save it.
Yeah.
Put that off to the side, save it for later. Package it in something smart. Don't just put it up on SoundCloud and not say anything about it. Don't just make an edit in 20 minutes and then, like, say, like, yeah, this is tight, just put it up there. Yeah, do it, whatever, fuck it. So, you live, you learn.
Yeah.
And then you get loves.
Did you go to college on the East Coast?
I did. Ian and I both went to college on the East Coast.
Oh,
I'm sure
where'd
he'll
you
tell you
go?
about that. I went to a school called Skidmore College in upstate New York.
Okay.
And it's just like a small liberal arts school. It's in the Northeast. It's like a little bit south of Albany, which is like, you know, they call it upstate New York, but it's kind of like mid-state New York. And it was cool. It was cold as fuck. You know, I really cut my teeth as a DJ there. That was where I was like, I stopped being all about, like, mashups and, like, making shitty remixes, and I was like, wait, I can DJ parties and, like, throw the fuck down and have, like, a great time.
Yeah.
So that's when that really started happening.
What did you study there?
Pardon me?
What did you study there?
I was an English major.
Oh, like your
Indeed.
parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Same
Exactly.
English
Yeah, exactly.
writing.
It's funny. Yeah, my dad was also an English major. My mom was a sociology major, and so it kind of all, you know, all worked together. He turned it into writing. She turned it into writing, but writing about people. And I've kind of turned my English major into, I don't know, DJing, I guess. But yeah.
Did you actually generally like English though?
I
like
did.
You wanted a career, like if it wasn't for music, do you think you could have a career in English?
Not necessarily. But what I did like about English was that it was the kind of topic where it was all about discussion, and it was all about, like, you know, coming to conclusions together. Every piece of text you read has multiple interpretations, and those kind of interpretations are based on, you know, your personal experience, where you come from, what you take away from the text. And in that, it was very interesting to me to hear every person's different perspective on, like, what they took from a text. Just because, you know, as you're reading something, what you know about life can or cannot apply to whatever you're reading, but when it does, it completely changes your interpretation of the text. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like someone who's I'm trying to think of an example. Like someone who's reading like a Tom Clancy novel or something. This is a very basic example. Someone who's reading a Tom Clancy novel that doesn't know anything about war is going to have a very different interpretation of the text than someone who went to war, someone who's like someone who's a veteran who's coming back from an experience like that. Like, it touches you differently, and you take different things from the text. So that part of English always really enticed me and was just like fun to have in class and fun to talk to people about.
Yeah. What are your favorite books or authors then?
Well, I have some lame answers and I have some good answers. I mean, my lame answer would just be Bill Watterson, who is the author of Calvin and Hobbes, because I think that, you know, what Calvin introduces in terms of thinking about the world and thinking about the grand scheme of things in a comic strip like that, when it's about, you know, a kid talking to his stuffed tiger, was always great to me. I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think of like a good answer. I mean, you know, I wrote my senior thesis on Shakespeare. And Shakespeare is just an incredibly interesting author in that no one really knows who he actually is. There's not a lot of recorded data on the actual person of Shakespeare, blah, 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 other than his works, or their works, rather. And so I love Shakespeare as an author, but also the fact that in their works, he, she, whoever they may be, decided to use the stage and the theater as kind of like a social commentary ground. There are many of their works, his, her, their works, that ended with a speech from the from one of the characters from the play as kind of like a epilogue to the whole story. And oftentimes they would face the audience with the facts that, like, look, this character that you really love is actually a dude. Because back in the day, there were no female actresses. There was no female actors. It was all dudes playing female characters. So he would say, all of you gentlemen in the audience, scared of your sexuality, face the fact that you were falling in love with a dude on stage tonight. Fact of the matter. Like, you all fell in love with the dude. Just face that. And it was a really cool way to challenge these, like, you know, social issues when things like, you know, homosexuality were not even, like, we were talking about old days England. People were getting burned at the stake for being witches. So, like, anyone trying to attack social commentary that far back in the day was really impressive. So, yeah, I guess, you know, kind of a basic answer, but Shakespeare's way up there.
Did it ever occur to you to study music?
I studied a little bit. You know, I took piano lessons, I studied music theory, I studied, you know, advanced studio work so that I knew how to run an actual studio and do engineering stuff. But in terms of, like, studying a particular...
Like in college?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where I studied. I studied all that stuff in college. What was
like
funny,
electives?
Though, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I did all those elective courses on my own. The funny thing is, I took enough classes to have a music minor. But I didn't play one classical instrument well enough to do a performance.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I could DJ a show, and they're like, ha ha ha, that's so cute. No.
That's so cute.
So no music minor for me. So that was my, you know, basically collective music knowledge was just whatever I taught myself at college and took in those little classes.
And after you graduated, did you come straight back to LA?
Yeah. 3 winters on the East Coast was more than enough. I was an LA boy, and when I graduated, I was like, I gotta get away from my parents, man. Went to the East Coast, had 1 winter, was like, whoa, what the fuck? And then got home, was like, I'm never leaving the West Coast again. And here I am.
And then do you remember, like, how your early remixes even, like, started gaining momentum?
Yeah, they just kind of got, I mean, to be honest with you, this was at a time when it wasn't like 5,000 people getting
like
into EDM every single...
right? When you guys...
Yeah, 2010, great memory. 2009, 2010 was definitely when we were starting to put out stuff that was like getting recognized by blogs. I mean, a lot of it, I will say, had to do with the fact that we were such active participants in blog culture in the first place. Like, back then I was a blog hound. I was like, every day when I wasn't doing my homework, I was getting back home just being like, all right, Salacious Sound, okay, Disco Dust, okay, let's open up Stony Rose, okay, let's open up Gotta Dance Dirty. It was just like tabs after tabs after tabs of like, different blogs and just downloading music, commenting, trying to like contribute to the scene and be part of it, to the point where, when we wanted to submit music, they knew who we were.
Oh, wow.
Not because we were, talented, just because they were like, oh, yeah, we know these dudes. Let's at least give them a fair
From
shake.
Your
because
comments, or did you actually form a relationship with them?
A little bit of both. I mean, so the big LA indie blog, Gotta Dance Dirty, I don't know, I feel like calling them indie blogs unfair, but Gotta Dance Dirty, they used to throw a party in LA called Control. And that party still exists. I think Gotta Dance Dirty is just kind of separated from it now. But back in those days, I went to Gotta Dance Dirty every fucking weekend. And that's where I met people like Bones, Trevor Bones. That's where I met Jonah Berry. It's where I met, like, Mr. White, who's now just white with 3 eyes, Ryan Jaso, all those people who are now, like, staples of this scene and people who really gave us a fair shake back in the day. And I think the fact that we were just honest dudes who weren't causing a lot of trouble, who weren't getting fucked up all the time, and who were just, there to have fun and genuinely wanting to contribute to the scene, I think they just appreciated that about us, and we're like, look, even if these guys aren't that great, they're not causing a huge bit of trouble or anything, so like, let's just give them a fair shake, and, I think that's truly how it started.
Yeah. Do you think you would be able to get to where you are now if you didn't live in LA?
I don't know if I would have wanted to be honest with you. I think being around so much of electronic music and having the access to all these shows is really what got me into the idea of trying to become a DJ. I think I probably would have tried to get more into like filmmaking with my friends, because we were also making a bunch of stupid movies back then, or settling into like being a teacher, like you were saying, like with my English major. If I was, not from LA, I probably would have pursued that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But the fact that we had access to so many of these shows, it really made the idea like so appealing and so much fun. It was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to go up there and DJ that thing. That looks like so much fun. Fucking A. And being able to pursue that in a city that was so where that was popping off so much, I think was a huge part of that, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you start getting in contact with Fool's Gold and everyone?
Actually, that's so funny, because that was, I feel like getting in contact with Fool's Gold was almost a kind of like, why haven't you done it yet kind of thing. Because by the time that we were even talking about getting in with Fool's Gold, we were already with our manager, Mike Power, who we love, already with our agent, John Jung, who we love.
AM Only.
AM Only,
yeah.
now Paradigm. But yeah, we were with AM Only and stuff. And we had talked about how we loved the aesthetic of Fool's Gold. A-Track's one of my personal heroes. It was just like, at that point, it was a dream. It was like, God, I would love to release on Fool's Gold. And then our agent very bluntly was just like, okay, well then send them some music. And we were like, we can't just send them music. And he was like, yes, you can, just send them music. Just do it. Stop being a baby. And so that's what we did. So we sent them 2 tracks off of our first EP that was called Assembly Line.
Do you remember what year that was?
2013.
Okay.
2013, yeah, because Assembly Line came out in 2014. And our next one after that, Transit, came out in 2016. So yeah, it was 2013 that we started the communication about it for it to come out in 2014. So 2013, we're talking to Nick Catch Dubs. We send him a couple tracks, and then John, our agent, actually puts us on a couple shows with like doing support for Nick Catch Dubs. We played a show with him in Chicago. We played a show with him. I'm trying to remember where else. We played a couple. I think it was like Arizona. Either way, we played a couple shows with Nick Catch Dubs and got to talk to him more, bro down a little bit, and realize that like he's pretty chill. He realizes we're a little chill, so we all get kind of like, like, oh hey, like we buds now, like what's good? And then he listens to the tracks. He's like, these are really cool. Let's start putting something together. And then we committed mistake number 2, which was we didn't have an EP yet. We didn't have anything done. We had the 2 tracks, so we were like, oh my god, wait, he likes the 2 songs. Oh my god, what are we gonna do? Oh my god, we gotta make more songs. And so we had a bunch in the bank, but then we had to pare down whatever was there to a 5-track EP, which is what we gave them. And that whole process took us a little while. Finishing, paring down tracks, all that point. Like, we started the conversation in 2013. We could have ended the conversation in 2013 if everything was done. If we had stuff like the album art already decided, if we had all the tracks done, if we had everything mastered, blah, blah, blah. But like, we were just young and stupid and we just didn't have it ready yet. So we just basically scrambled for the next like 3-4 months, just like making music, finding our best tracks. We probably axed like 6 or 7 tracks that we were going to put on that EP in that time, just because we were like, no, man. It's our first release with Fool's Gold. It's got to be sick. This has got to be the best thing we've ever done. It's got to be dope. And I think it was for the time. I think when we put those 5 tracks out, they were definitely 5 of our best songs that we had ever made at that point, for sure.
What about Ian's personality? Did you realize that you wanted to be in a duo with him?
I mean, Ian is like the style king. Like, he is someone that I've always looked to for what's cool, what's hip. He is so in tune with, the world around him and what is cool, that I'm always defaulting to him in certain scenarios where, I accept the fact that I'm a pretty nerdy dude. I got a particular lane of things that interest me, and sometimes those things are not what's super popular to the rest of the world, and sometimes he can be like, Daniel, if you were to put this energy into making hip-hop beats, you could make something out of it. And I'd be like, no, man, I like nu metal. I only want to listen to like Mars Volta and Tool all day. Like, that's all I want to do, man. Can we make that music? He'd be like, Daniel, no, let's not do that. I was like, all right, maybe you have the right idea here. So Ian and he's my best friend. I love that guy to death. We've been friends since we were 13 years old.
Crazy.
And so, just the fact that we've been friends for so long, that we work well together, that, he has such a good eye and a good ear into what is hot and what is cool and what's going to be cool, I almost trust him inherently.
How do you think you've grown as a person since when you started?
I mean, shit, man. The game will force you to grow. The game will teach you so much so quickly. I think I'm definitely a lot more cautious with my optimism. I'm a lot more careful with my words. I'm a lot more careful with who I talk to and who I consider close relationships with, which I'm not like super proud of, but it's just the fact that, so often you can think you get into a close relationship with somebody, or you think you're so close to like an awesome goal, and then it's just like, oh, nope, it's gone. Somebody changes their mind. Oh, well, it's over. It's one of those things where like I would put so much of my heart into something and just be destroyed or defeated when it didn't work out. And unfortunately, like, that's life.
Yeah.
So that will teach you to grow, and also teach you to be a little bit more reserved with not just like all your work, and nothing wrong with putting all your eggs in a basket, but at the same time, just having a little bit more of a global view of what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
So that is a way that the game has really made me grow the fuck up.
Last question.
Please.
What do you want to be remembered for?
That's a great one. Being honest. Being honest and being nice. Because I feel like so much of the you know, if it's not the muscle remix, it's not the muscle remix. It's just that being nice, being honest, and being good people is always a better path than stepping on anyone, than being rude, than using your power against somebody. It's always better to work together and come to good conclusions and come to conclusions that suit everybody than it is to just push somebody away in favor of what you want.
Yeah.
So if I want to be remembered anything, it's just that piece of advice. Work together, be nice, be kind to everyone. It'll serve you so much more than trying to, sway power or, swing the big one around and be like, well, hey, let's just do it my way because blah, blah, blah. It's just like, just work together because it'll work out so much better for everybody.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're the first person who ever said, like, to be remembered for being honest. So.
Woo! I'll take that.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you. It was awesome. Thank you so much. That's great.
Bye, guys.